Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Jordan and welcome to JC's Anime Reviews, and today we are going to be talking about Deadman Wonderland. But before we begin, I just want to say that for the rest of the month of October, I'm going to be reviewing horror anime because it's the month of Halloween, and I thought it'd be cool to do something special for Halloween, like reviewing just horror anime. And since I haven't really seen any horror anime, I asked you guys over on my Instagram if you had any horror anime suggestions, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who answered the story question with a suggestion or DM me suggestions. I really appreciate it. Now, since I didn't plan this very well and only decided it during that anime figure unboxing, they're actually the two anime figures behind me. Links in the description to that video if you want to check it out. But I mentioned at the end of that video I wanted to do some horror anime or scary anime for Halloween or for October, and I only really decided that right before recording that video, so there wasn't a whole lot of planning that went into it, so I won't be able to cover all of your guys' suggestions, but there's going to be a few that I'll do. And if I decide to do this next year too, then I'll try to plan it a little bit more and not start almost 2 weeks into October, so then I can review a little bit more horror anime and just kind of plan this a little bit better. Okay, I'm sorry about that long introduction, but now let's get into talking about Deadman Wonderland. So the story of Deadman Wonderland follows Ganta Igarashi, and it looked like it would be a normal day for him and his classmates. They were preparing to go on a class field trip to a certain prison amusement park called Deadman Wonderland, where the convicts perform dangerous acts for the onlookers' amusement. However, Ganta's life is quickly turned upside down when his whole class gets massacred by a mysterious man in red. Framed for the incident and sentenced to death, Ganta is sent to the very jail he was supposed to visit. But Ganta's nightmare is only just beginning. The young protagonist is thrown into a world of sadistic inmates and enigmatic powers, to live in constant fear of the lethal collar placed around his neck that will poison and kill him if he doesn't eat the antidote called candy every 3 days. Ganta must bet his life to survive in a ruthless place where it isn't always easy to tell friend from foe, all while trying to find this mysterious red man and clear his name in Deadman Wonderland. So after someone recommended me this on Instagram, I went to go look it up and I read the plot and I was like, that sounds like it would be a really fun horror anime. Like, mixing an amusement park and a prison sounds pretty messed up, but it seems like it would make for a really cool and interesting horror anime or even movie. But I think I set my expectations a little bit too high on this one. So after I watched the first 2 episodes, I was really into it and I thought that if they could keep this going, it would end up being a really good anime. But after those first 2 episodes, it slowly started to lose my interest. So I'm going to talk about those first 2 episodes real quick and tell you a little bit about what I thought that they did right and what I really liked about it. And there's kind of minor spoilers. I'm not really going to go too in depth. I'm kind of just going to run through what happens in the first 2 episodes real quick. It won't be any like major spoilers, just it's kind of what happened in the first 2 episodes, but nothing like that big of a spoiler. So the first episode shows what happens with Ganta's class. It also shows his trial, and it also shows him getting to the prison. Also, once he gets to the prison, this is where Shiro is introduced, who is this girl who says that she's friends with Ganta and knows him, but he has no idea who she is, or he doesn't remember who she is. And then, I forgot why, but some sort of structure ends up getting blown up and rubble starts falling and it's about to fall on Shiro, and then we get to see a glimpse of Ganta's power. He has a power similar to the person who killed his whole class, and he protects Shiro from the falling rubble. So that was the first episode, and I thought it was fine. They were setting up the characters and setting up some mysteries, like what's this power that he used, who's Shiro, and what's the deal with this crazy prison. It was a very good introduction episode. It introduces our characters and some mysteries, and I thought it was good. Like, I liked it. Then you have the second episode where Ganta finds out about the candy that he's supposed to eat every 3 days or else he'll die. And apparently every death row inmate, when they arrive at the prison, is given a bag that has one of the candy inside of it, but for some reason Ganta's is missing. By the way, the only people that have to eat the candy every 3 days or else they'll be poisoned are people on death row. So in order for Ganta to get enough caste, which is basically the prison's currency, which you can use to buy stuff like clothes or food, and you can also use it to buy candy, but the candy's really expensive, so Ganta Ganta enters this obstacle course competition where you have to make it to the end and beat everyone else, and if you win, you get a lot of cast. And the obstacle course was pretty brutal. It has a lot of deadly traps, and if you try to run off of the obstacle course because you don't want to do it, they'll shoot you with an arrow, so you kind of don't have a choice but to run through there and hope that you don't die, because if you don't do it, you're gonna be killed. So yeah, it's pretty brutal, and I actually thought that episode was pretty good, and I had a lot of fun watching the obstacle course thing. I thought that was really interesting and really unique, and I thought that it was cool. And then right after this episode, in episode 3, it kind of just goes right into exploring the secrets of the prison and this mysterious power. It was pretty fast that they start finding out stuff about it, and it was a little rushed. Now, once you kind of find out about these powers, there is some cool stuff that they did with it, but for the most part, after episode 2, it starts to get a little boring, and it started to kind of lose me, or lose my interest, even though they do some cool things with the powers, but it was not as good as those first 2 episodes. And at times, this anime gets pretty boring. Like, you'll have a cool action scene, and then you'll have characters that spend a long time talking to each other, and since I don't really care about the characters that much, and they haven't really set them up too much, if there's too much time talking, it's really boring because I don't really care about the characters, and sometimes they're talking about stuff that I don't really care about. So the point I was trying to make by going over those 2 episodes is that the anime does do some really cool things, and it could have been really cool and a lot better, but the main problem is the characters, who are kind of boring. Like, Ganta's whole character, he basically gets upset about something and cries about it, and then he'll do something really badass and then be like, I'm determined to find this red man and kill him and do all this stuff, and then he gets upset, starts crying again. And I get that he's 14 in a prison, and if I was in this type of prison at 14, yeah, even now, I'd probably be crying like crazy, because fuck that sounds awful, being in a prison like that. So I get it. It makes sense that he's crying a lot and getting really upset, but it does get a little old after a while, and when they do it too much and he just keeps doing it, you're just like, come on, can't you just learn from what you're doing and not keep getting upset about certain things? There were some times where he would just get really upset and then just get determined again to beat the red man, or find the red guy. It was getting really tiring. Then the other main character, Shiro, is a little crazy and kind of annoying, but she wasn't as annoying as Ganta. I think I liked her more than Ganta, but we don't really find out like anything about her. We find out some stuff, and I was thinking maybe towards the end of the anime we'll find out more about her, but they just kind of drop hints about her past, and I think there's one episode that shows a little bit of her past, but we barely know anything about her at all. And there is one thing that's revealed about her later on that makes her a little bit more interesting, but they don't really do anything with this. I was just like, what's the point? Like, they didn't even do anything with it. I'm not gonna talk about it because of spoilers, but yeah. Also, the red man, he shows up in episode 1 and he kills his class, and it's just like, who is this guy? He's like this floating dude and uses some sort of power and just kills all of them like instantly. It's just like, oh shit, who is this guy? And then they don't do much with him at all. He shows up in episode 3 again, and he's in the prison, and they're like, oh my god, he's here. And now the Ganta is more determined to beat him. He's like, I have to beat him. But then after that, you don't really hear much about this red man, other than when Ganta is like, I need to find the red man and kill him to avenge my classmates, and it's usually when he's all upset and stuff like that. They just don't really do much with him, and it was a little disappointing, because they introduced this guy and we were like, who is this guy? And that's kind of seems to be the main focus of the story at first. There is one point where the story totally shifts and follows, minor spoilers here, but Ganta meets some sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Resistance. Okay, resistance was the word I was looking for. So Ganta, he meets this resistance group who's trying to fight back to break out of the prison and stuff like that. And once that happens, it's like the rest of the show is just focusing on them and how they want to get out. And it's like everyone completely forgot about the red man, and Ganta's story, it's just him kind of trying to help these guys. During that time, I think it's like 4 or 5 episodes, I completely forgot about the red man until Ganta randomly brings him up and is like, I want to beat him. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about him. So yeah, they didn't do too much with him, and that was a little boring. Personally, I would change a lot about this anime. Like, what I would change is, first off, I would get rid of the whole power thing. Maybe make the Red Man have his powers still, so like that first episode is the same, where the Red Man uses some sort of powers to kill these guys, he goes to the prison, all that stuff. And each episode is Ganta trying to survive these messed up carnival games, much like the obstacle course. And while he's doing this, they slowly expand on the world of the prison, and we slowly start finding out more details about this prison and why it's like this. And whenever Ganta runs into the Red Man, or if he ever shows up, since Ganta doesn't have any powers and he has powers, that would make it a lot more like scarier, or make it a lot more like feel like there's a lot more tension and make you actually kind of worry about him, because him with no powers has to find a way to get revenge on this murdering dude with superpowers. I know that the powers were cool, but if they did this, it would make the tension a lot higher, and it would make the atmosphere a little bit more darker, because it would feel like Ganta's really not safe at all. Because once he gets the powers, you're like, oh, he has these powers, he can probably help himself or defend himself. But if he has no powers and has to survive all these people in the prison, as well as the Red Man who has the powers, I feel like that would have made it a lot better and made it really entertaining. And if they just had a lot more fun with the carnival games, I know it's messed up, but maybe if they had a little bit more fun with the games and stuff like that, I feel like that would make it a really good and kind of fun horror anime to watch. Also, another thing is that I watched it on Funimation because it was the only place I could find it, and on there they censor a lot of the violence, and that made it hard to get a good sense of how dangerous the situations that Ganta was in were. So I think it being uncensored would actually benefit this anime, because if you're gonna have that dark setting and you censor it, it takes away from it feeling so dark, and it kind of takes away some of the horror elements, because the horror is mostly reliant on it being so violent. It's not really scary. I mean, the situation he's in is messed up. It's more, I guess, like something like Saw, where it's like these messed up games that he has to go through. It's more along the lines of something like that, and with them censoring it, it just takes away from that, and it doesn't feel as dangerous or as scary. I believe there is an uncensored version of it, but it's the Blu-ray. I think you have to buy like the special uncensored Blu-ray or whatever, but I wasn't gonna buy a Blu-ray to watch this, so yeah, I had to watch it censored, and if they uncensored it, it might have been a little bit better. Honestly, I wanted to like this anime, I really did. Like, when I read the synopsis, I was like, that sounds like it would be really fun, and I was kind of excited to watch this, but they don't do so great with their characters. Their characters are kind of boring. Also, the story's a little rushed, and it got really boring sometimes. So I'm gonna give Deadman Wonderland a D+. It felt like that anime had a lot of potential, and possibly with the second season it could have gotten better, but the studio that made it, Studio Manglobe, I believe, I might be pronouncing their name wrong, back in 2015 they filed for bankruptcy, so they won't be making any more anime again, and there's a pretty good chance we'll never get a second season of Deadman Wonderland, so that sucks. It felt like they could have made it better with the second season. Maybe another studio will decide to make a second season of it. Who knows? I think it would be cool if they did, and it might make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit better, but oh well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, liking the video and subscribing helps me out a lot, and I would really appreciate it. So I'll see you guys later this week with another horror anime, and the one that I'm probably going to review definitely is not censored, so it's pretty violent. That's all I'm going to say. I'll probably be talking about it later this week, and yeah, so I hope that you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.